Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Voices Behind the Tech. This is the second episode in a series of interviews featuring members of Foundry's team to talk about their careers, what they do at Foundry, and what inspires them in their work. Today, we have Iulia, Ruth, and Caterina, who are part of Foundry's creative specialists and customer support teams to share their insight. To get started, it would be great to hear from each of you about what you do at Foundry and your background. Caterina, would you like to get us started?
Yeah, sure. I'm a customer support engineer for Flix. Essentially, I troubleshoot issues that our customers come to us with, and I try to figure out if they're because of a bug, missing feature in the software, if it's a user error, or if there's something wrong in their setup. So Flix is an asset-centric tool that helps editorial, story, and production collaborate and save time during the storyboarding process for film and animation. I studied 3D animation and visual effects, and because of my background, I mainly focus on workflow issues, helping studios improve either their pipeline or a single user flow, making the most of the software.
Thank you for sharing that, Caterina. As part of our support team, you may have received a response from her on a ticket that you submitted or have seen their profile on the support page. The support team is an essential part and a collaborative part of Foundry's team, not only helping users one-to-one, but sharing their knowledge internally. Iulia is also a part of our support team, so I'll hand that over to her next.
Thank you. So I'm Iulia. I'm the head of customer support. I lead our Foundry team of customer support engineers who are helping our customers with anything from technical questions on licensing to just questions on all our products. So Nuke, Mari, Katana, Flix, Modo, Callaway, etc. I'm originally from Romania, and my background comes from computer science as a bachelor, and I did also a master in visual effects at the University of Kent in Canterbury. And that helped me study the general visual effects industry, but coming with the programming side of computer science kind of tied it really nicely into what Foundry does.
Great, thank you for that. And Ruth, how about you?
Thanks, Liz. Hi, I'm Ruth. I'm a creative specialist at Foundry. So the creative specialist team are sort of the internal artists for Foundry. So we communicate a lot with customers and clients, artists, and studios to sort of help them get up and running with new software. So we will introduce them to the software in the beginning with a demo, and then we will be there throughout that learning process of them implementing it into their pipeline. So we'll be there to answer any questions that they might have and talk them through any workflows. So I'm focused on the artist side of things. So my responsibility is on the workflow side. So I'll be mainly communicating with artists. As well as that, we also help to prepare assets that are used internally for demo purposes or testing. And I'll also help to create video content such as tutorials, webinars, and demos. So my background is I studied computer animation and visual effects at Bournemouth before coming to Foundry.
Thank you, Ruth. Many of you may have watched a tutorial that Ruth has led or seen her at View, and she also is going to lead the Katana 5 webinar series. Hugely dependent on Ruth in my role as industry marketing, and appreciate her time and effort. So Ruth, I'm going to hand it back to you for our next question, which is, what was the key to getting you started?
So I think after university, I found it quite difficult personally to sort of know what role I was interested in, where to look. So I found that LinkedIn was a massive help for me, just to keep up with what roles were out there, what was going on, and also to keep up with all the different studios and potential sort of places for applying. If it wasn't for LinkedIn, I wouldn't have discovered this role at Foundry. I actually started as a technical content creator, so a slightly different role at Foundry, but still I wouldn't have really realized that these roles existed or that they were a potential pathway for me from the course that I studied at university. So yeah, I think just being active on LinkedIn and making contacts through LinkedIn really helped me personally.
Iulia, what about you?
So because I came from an area that's not doesn't necessarily have an established VFX industry, so Romania as a country, I guess it was a bit trickier to get knowledge of what VFX means and how you get into it. While studying computer science, the only things that you would kind of come closest would be learning a bit of Photoshop or just something more like towards web design, which isn't really what this industry is. So for me, the best thing was doing a master in visual effects that allowed me to learn what it really means, what sort of software you would need to learn, what's the typical workflow, etc. And the support from the tutors at university, that was the great thing of just receiving that advice of how do I go about getting into the industry? What do I need? What should I build? What skills am I required? Where should I apply, etc. And apart from just that, the various online resources. So from Facebook animation, VFX groups, to like CG societies, to different courses or just news regarding VFX. So all of that was a massive help when you don't necessarily come from an area that's very focused onto VFX, like the UK.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think it's interesting how you both kind of have a connection through inspiration through social media. Power positive for social media there. So, and Caterina, you?
So for me, I think it was mostly the contacts I made at university really helped me. I actually had a friend that was working for Foundry when the customer support engineer role was out, and she really pushed for me to apply. I, like similarly to Ruth, I didn't know that these type of roles existed, and similarly to Ruth, I also was really struggling to try and figure out what I wanted to do after university. I guess I had obviously the same background as Ruth in animation VFX, but I've always really struggled because I'm really curious. I've always really struggled to focus and do just one thing and really like, 3D model for days on end, etc. And this friend of mine that pushed for me to apply, she knew about this and she knew like my curiosity would have actually ended up helping in a role such as this one, where you have to know a little bit of absolutely everything. And yeah.
Curiosity is good when you need to solve problems, right?
Yep.
Good motivation. Excellent. Perfect. So for the next question, it's going to be what inspired you along the way? And we'll have Iulia start us off with this one.
So I love movies, I love stories, and just the opportunity to get engaged into this industry and feel like whatever I'm doing or however I go about helping will have a direct impact on what I end up seeing on the big screen was the biggest draw. I remember ages ago, I used to see Pirates of the Caribbean, and just the effects in that movie, and I know it's ages ago, I was really like wanting to know more and just wanting to help. That was the key thing that drew me towards it. And ever since, just continuing to have that discussion with the customers and just see how much the people are passionate about the industry and how that knowledge is being learned and then shared among everyone just keeps that feeling going. And it's what inspires me each day.
And Caterina, how about you? What has inspired you along the way?
Similarly to Iulia, I think like the people I meet and speak with every day, both at university. I remember the very first week at university, you're starting to meet new people, and I really felt like I belonged. Like it didn't matter what I was talking to them about, like I was meeting all these people that had very similar passions to me. And now in the work that I do, meeting new customers and understanding different ways they work and just seeing how that same passion drives them every day, and how the similar, very similar conversations are also repeated like with my colleagues. And yeah, that just makes me feel like, I'm where I need to be, and it is what I like doing. And the more I speak to people like me, the more passionate I become. So yeah.
That's awesome. That sense of belonging is so important, and also to feel like you're part of a community that you truly care about. Yeah, definitely great inspiration. And for you, Ruth?
For me, I'm inspired mostly by the things that I'm sort of learning every day, and the fact that like there's so much variety within a role like this. So not every day is the same. I have like different tasks to do, and so there's constant learning to be done, which I really like. and there's always like new things to be keeping up with in this industry. It's so fast paced. So I think I'm inspired by being able to be a part of that and learn more about it. And then, of course, being surrounded at Foundry by all these amazing people who have so much experience in this industry, and being able to be a part of that is like, it's really cool. So
yeah, I couldn't agree with you any more there, that we do have a very inspirational team at Foundry. It's passionate about what they do. It definitely helps to keep you motivated along the way. Perfect. So the next question I have is, what advice can you give to people interested in starting a career in your field?
I guess keeping an open mind about like what you're going to be doing after university. I guess like we were talking about this earlier, where a lot of the roles that you learn about when studying animation or VFX are, you know, a compositor or like rigging or animation, and you never really hear about everything that goes behind the scenes, and all the other smaller roles that aren't necessarily related to the animation or filmmaking pipeline, but also, you know, the software that you end up using for the production, and just building on that trust within yourself, that you know what skills you've learned through the courses at university, and just reading the job descriptions that get thrown at you, and trying out things you may not have realized that are out there.
And Ruth, how about you? Is there any advice that you can give?
Yeah, well, I completely agree with what Caterina was saying. I think it's really easy to sort of close yourself off and limit yourself, especially when you come out of university and you're studying something so specific and you may have specialized. But I think it's really important not to limit yourself that early on, because you're never going to, even, you know, no matter where you go from university, you're never closed off to going somewhere else in the future. So you don't have to sort of jump into exactly what you want to do straight away. Just keep an open mind, especially if you're not 100% sure what you want to do. Yeah, keep an eye out for other roles that would still be relevant and still be doing what you enjoy doing, but just something that you may not expect, something you may not know exists. So just do some research, keep an eye out for things like this, and yeah, you might be surprised that you might have a complete change of heart about what you want to do in the future.
You never know where your path is going to take you, and like you say, what you learn along the way will always be valuable, whether you decide down the road that's maybe not the right direction for you. Iulia, what about you?
I completely agree with what Caterina and Ruth said. I guess just to reinforce that, it's quite important to be open to all the opportunities and different things. And especially when software comes along as well, some people wouldn't think, oh, if I come with, I want to be an artist, what am I going to do in a software company? Well, there's actually a lot of things that a software company like ours can offer, because that experience and knowledge of being an artist is very valuable to then make the software so much more pliable and useful for the artist. So that's one thing, just being open and not being put off by it's a specific side of the industry that doesn't necessarily transfer to being an artist. But also just trying to keep up with everything that's happening in VFX, trying to keep up with that knowledge, showing that you're passionate, and also showing that you're passionate about learning. People should be honest. If somebody looks at the job spec and they have zero understanding of what that piece of software is meant to do, just be honest, say that, but also say how you went about learning something different, like a different software that maybe others don't know about, or just that you did that. That shows that growth, and it's very important whenever you start up in any sort of career.
I think the willingness to learn is so important in communicating that. Excellent. Perfect. So for our final question, my favorite question is going to be, what's your favorite thing about your job? And we'll get started with Ruth on that one.
My favorite part of the job is that I get to use Caterina as a software on a daily basis. I get to sort of experiment with it and use it maybe in a similar way to an artist might be using it in a studio. So I get to see that side of it and use it in that way without actually being part of the production side of things necessarily. but I really personally love that combination between sort of being able to use it and play around with it and learn all the new features as they're being developed, and also be communicating to the studios and artists that are using it in production. So I sort of enjoy that, both sides of it, I suppose. And yeah, I also really love that when studios sort of mention the softwares as being able to have benefited them for a certain project, it sort of makes you feel like really nice that you've helped towards that.
Absolutely. Yeah, getting that recognition always feels great and is encouraging. Iulia, how about you? What's your favorite thing about your role?
So everything in customer support is really fast-paced. There's no dull or like boring moment, and that's the key thing that I really enjoy in my role. Everyone in the team is really passionate. They really care about helping customers, and that just transpires through them doing the work, even sometimes beyond their 6 o'clock end of the day. And it's very motivating to start each day knowing that I'm going to do some work and I'm enjoying it and I'm looking forward to it, rather than it's just some work that I'm doing. It's that feeling of accomplishment and contribution towards the VFX industry, and how much everyone in the company is passionate about what they're doing and how that translates into whatever the artists end up playing with for our software.
Excellent. And Caterina, how about you?
Yeah, I like that Iulia mentioned the finishing after the usual 6 p.m. I am guilty of that. When someone comes up to me with like a really big problem, I don't even look at the time because I just need to figure it out. And I think that plays a big part in it, in the reason why I enjoy what I'm doing so much, because there's always something new to learn. There's always a problem that you didn't even know could exist. And there's always a solution that you didn't even know you could find. Sometimes it takes longer than you think it would, but at the end, it's really rewarding when you come back to the customer with that solution and they go like, oh yeah, that worked. I can move on with my life now. So yeah, there's always something new to learn in the software because the software is always being developed. Someone's always going to come up with like a different way to use your software. It's never boring and there's always something new.
Great. Well, thank you all for sharing your insight today. I hope that those of you watching found this information to be helpful. And if you're interested in more interviews like this, you can subscribe to Foundry's YouTube channel because there's more on the way. So with that, thank you again for watching, and until next time, take care.